The French Chef is made possible by a grant from Safeway stores.
Don't you ever get awfully tired of just baked, boiled, and mashed and fried potatoes? Well, if you do, tune in on us. We're doing 4 wonderful recipes on our potato show today on The French Chef. Welcome to The French Chef. I'm Julia Child. Today we have the great potato show. Potatoes, as some of you might not know, were considered poison up until about 1771. Some people thought they gave leprosy, and it wasn't until Mr. Parmentier gave a bouquet of potato flowers to Louis XVI in 1771 that potatoes became a very fashionable vegetable. And then after being very fashionable, they became really the bread of life. You've, of course, heard of the Irish potato famine. Well, they're just all over the world today, but there are not very many ways of cooking them that most people know. I counted over 200 potato recipes in a French book the other day, and we're going to do 4 lovely ones. We're going to start out with a scalloped potato dish called Gratin Dauphinois. It's a perfectly delicious, quick, lovely potato dish. And all it is sliced potatoes cooked in milk and butter and a little seasonings, and they take about 25 minutes to do. So we'll have them done by the time we finish. Now, if for slicing potatoes, I always recommend that you learn how to use your knife because it goes so quickly. You hold it that way, and there's your potato with your thumb there and your fingers here, and you just come straight down like that. And after you practice, you can go very fast. But if you don't want to do that, though I recommend you learn to use your knife, you can use a grater like this, and it has a slicing hole, and you just slice the potato down like that. And then when you come to the end, be careful not to slice off your thumbs. And then when you've got your potatoes all sliced, you want to dip them in water and do like that to them to get off the floury coating, because we don't want the potatoes to stick together in their dish. And then, after that, you drain them. I've got a big drainer here. And you always want to, after you've peeled or sliced potatoes, you want to always keep them in water or they turn brown. Now, with this one, we have a fireproof dish here. This is enameled iron with this, which you can cook with either on the stove or in the oven. Then you fill it about 1/3 full of milk, and then you simply. Then I'm going to put a little bit of garlic in, too. That's always part of this dish. You can put cheese in, too, but I like it just plain. There's a whole clove of garlic in the press, and it goes creak all over the stove, but into the potatoes, too. And then some salt and pepper. And we have this heating up because it's just to show you how quick it is. I'm putting in about 1.25 teaspoons of salt and some pepper. And then in go the potatoes. Now the secret of this dish is having thinly sliced potatoes, and you don't want the dish to be over 2 inches high. And then you just put a little butter on, and then it goes into the oven. And that's all there is to it. If you're using just milk, you can use quite a bit of butter. I'm using about 2 tablespoons there, and this will serve 4 to 6 people. There. And then that goes into a 450-degree oven. See, the point is that you always And that will cook in about 20 minutes. The point is, for quick cooking, you always heat up the milk in your pan first. Now we're going to do another nice dish. And this is a main course dish. That pomme de terre dauphinois goes very nicely with roasts and steaks and things like that. Now this one is going to be sausage and potatoes. And we have an oven-proof dish here. And we butter it. I don't know what I did with my draining equipment. I guess I'll have to go over and get it. And now we have some potatoes here that were sliced and boiled in salted water. And these are what are known as boiling potatoes. Oh, I did want to remind myself about that Gratin Dauphinois. I'm going to set the timer for about 18 minutes there, and I think that gratin will be done. Now, as I was saying, these are sliced boiling potatoes, and I've just boiled them in salted water until they're just tender. And then you drain them out. And then you just make layers of potatoes. And then we're going to put some onions on. These are onions that have been cooked slowly in butter until they're tender. And I've got about, a good cup here. I probably won't use all of them. But it's a good idea when you're cooking onions, if you use a lot of them, and I do, is to cook up a lot, and then you can put them in the icebox. Then you put a layer of sausage in. This is Polish sausage, which you can buy in any supermarket. It just comes wrapped like that in cellophane. And you don't have to cook it or anything because this is going to cook. And then you cover that up. It just depends on how much meat you want. And then some more potatoes. See, this is a very simple dish, and it makes an awfully nice supper or luncheon dish, and it's good and hearty. And then we put on some more onions. You can end with onions or potatoes. It doesn't make any difference which you do. And in this, it doesn't make any difference whether you have a fairly deep oven dish. I think this size of about 2 inches is good. And this is around 8 or 9 inches in diameter and about 2 inches high. And then you can either use a white sauce or you can use a mixture of cream and eggs beaten up. I think I shall use light cream and eggs because it makes it rather like a quiche. And we'll have 2 eggs. I've got them in a bowl, and you just beat them enough just to mix them. And then I have 2 cups of that all-purpose sort of medium light cream. I'll put in about a cup, and then if I see if we need any more, I can add it. And that just gets poured over. That should come up about 2/3 of the way up, so I'll just put in a little more cream. You can do this with milk if you like. And then we put on a little grated Swiss cheese. You always use this if you want something to brown on the top in a dish like this. And then also, so that it will brown on the top, you put on a little bit of butter. I'm using about a tablespoon of butter here. These proportions don't make terribly much difference as long as you have 2 eggs, and then it's just as much cream as you want. This is just really the same as a quiche mixture, and you could cook it in a pie shell, but I think if you did, it would be a little bit heavy with all that dough and all those potatoes. And now that you can arrange ahead of time and cook when you like. So I'm just going to put that to the side, and I'll show you how it looks when it's done. You see, there's the sausage, and the eggs have made sort of a custard. It makes a very nice dish. Now we're going to have another another potato dish. The repertoire is really endless in potatoes. I was amazed when I counted up and found over 200. And I like the idea of having potatoes also as a main course because it's inexpensive and they're not nearly as nourishing as people think. They're always saying, oh, that's got so many calories in it and so forth. But one cup of potatoes has, I think, only 70 calories in it, which is not any more than an apple. Now, this one is a very sort of a simple-minded but awfully good dish. These are baked potatoes cut in half, and then you just scoop out the potato part. And if you're in a hurry, you can cut the raw potatoes in half and just steam them until they're tender. But be sure, in any case, that as soon as they're cooked, you cut them in half so they don't develop that stale potato taste. And then I'm going to mash them sort of roughly. This is an awfully useful kind of a mixing fork. It has these long, flat blades, and also they're slightly bent over. I'm going to heat up my pan here, too, so that I'll show you how quickly this all goes. I'm going to put in a little butter and oil and then watch it. Don't want it to get too hot. Now, you just take your fork. You see how useful that is? You just mash the potatoes like that with it. And then you put in whatever seasonings you like. I'm going to put in some pepper. Freshly ground pepper always seems to taste much better. And about, a teaspoon of salt. And I think as soon as I've got some cream, I'll put a little bit of cream in and a little butter in. You don't want to get the mixture too liquid. And then just mix that all around. You see how convenient that fork is. And then it's always a good idea to taste it because you want to be sure you've got enough salt and pepper in. Oh, good. Nothing like butter. And now you can do numerous things with this mixture. I'm just going to saute it in my darling no-stick pan, which I'm so fond of. Get your butter hot, and then just put the potatoes in. You can saute these in a small pan or a large pan, or put them in a gratin dish, or you can bake them. I think it's rather fun just to do it this way. There. And now, I'll put that over there, I think. Now this you want to go good and hard. And one thing that's nice about this too, you can add other things to it, such as some of these cooked diced onions. And we had them the other night with onions and cooked diced green pepper. And it was an awfully good mixture. And another thing you could do would be diced ham or chicken livers or diced mushrooms. I hope that's. I'm going to try and flip this over, which is a rather daring thing to do, but I've got to get a little bit of a crust on the bottom of it. Now another thing that you can do with this is to have a fireproof dish and get the bottom nice and crusty, and then pour some very heavy cream and sprinkle a little cheese on top of it, and then bake that in the oven in a 375 oven for about 30 minutes. That makes a perfectly delicious dish. I'm going to see if that is flippable. Oh, well, I'm going to try it anyway. When you flip anything, you just have to have the courage of your convictions, particularly if it's sort of a loose mass like this. Well, that didn't go very well. See, when I flipped it, I didn't have the courage to do it the way I should have. But you can always pick it up, and if you're alone in the kitchen, who is going to see? But the only way you learn how to flip things is just to flip them. And so when that could have been browned a little more on that side, I shall consider that that's browned, and we'll put this in an oven dish like this. See, it should have been browned enough on the crust, and then it would have held together. If I can shake that back into place a little bit. I'll spread it out. Now this one, anytime that anything like this happens, you haven't lost anything, because you can always turn this into something else. So in this case, we'll put on a little bit of cheese. We'll pretend that this was supposed to be a baked potato dish. We'll put on a little cheese, and I've still got some more cream, so I'll just put a little more cream on. This is awfully good. We don't care about calories in this one. We know that potatoes don't have too many. Now, this, of course, you can get ahead of time done, and then you can either put it under a low broiler, or you can put it in the oven and bake it. So I shall set that aside, and we'll do another one. Now, these are going to be raw grated potato pancakes. And first, these have some, you can make potato pancakes that are just perfectly plain, or you can do what we're going to do, mix them with some cream cheese and egg and other type of cheese. In this recipe, I'm just going to do half of the recipe, but it works out just the same, luckily, because it divides. And I'm going to use cream cheese. That's 8 ounces, so I'm going to use 4 ounces of it. And then 1 egg. And I'm going to use my mixing fork again, if I can find it. It's around here somewhere. Oh, here it is. You just mash it all up. I've had this cheese out of the refrigerator for some time, so it's nice and soft. There, and then we're going to grate the potatoes. I've got so many burners out here, it's hot. There. And now, this is a funny part to it, and very French. I don't know, it's always, when we do something like this, and I'll show you the part that is considered odd, you take the coarse part of your grater and just grate it down. We want 2 cups of potatoes. That'll be probably 3 or 4 potatoes. Now, every once in a while, when I've been trying to be fast and haven't looked, I've really grated my knuckles, so I usually end at about there. Now this, though, you can do this recipe ahead of time. The potatoes are such funny things. They exude an awful lot of water, and they also turn brown. There's some odd chemical compound of potatoes. I'm not sure that they've ever discovered exactly why potatoes act as funny as they do, what they do. Now, I think that's about 2 cups. Yeah, I would say that was 2 cups. And now, this comes the amusing part. Well, I'll take an absolutely clean towel so as not to offend anyone. Now, you take your potatoes by handfuls and squeeze them. You've got to get all the water out, because otherwise, if they sit even for a few minutes, they get more watery. You don't want to take too big a handful, because you want to just squeeze it. There. Isn't that amazing how much water came out, and there wasn't any water? We didn't put them in any water or anything like that. Now, if you squeeze those ahead of time, they would immediately turn brown. And you don't want that to happen. Probably wouldn't hurt them too much, but it doesn't look well. That would be bad psychologically for the cook, I think. Look at all that water. That's amazing. There. You just want to get as much out as possible. If your hands aren't very strong, just do them by very small batches. And then we mix them all up. And we add salt and pepper. There's some pepper. And salt, that'll be, I'd say, about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Then we put in about 2/3 of a cup of diced Swiss cheese. And this is diced about 1/4 of an inch thick so that it'll melt slowly as the pancakes cook. Then, you see that looks sort of like coleslaw, and you can, if you've done it just now, you can put a few tablespoons of cream in. You could use sour cream if you wanted. You don't want to get it too liquid. Then it goes into our pan. You can either do a great big one, or I got my heat on so high, I'm just getting boiled. Or you can do little ones. I think I'm going to do a big one because it's fun, and I can also flip it again, which I hope is going to work this time. And as always, we put in a little bit of oil and some butter. And I'm again using our no-stick pan. Now, if I waited 3 or 4 minutes, say if I were going to make some small pancakes, and I waited 3 or 4 minutes, a lot more water would exude from these pancakes. I mean, from these potatoes. They're that queer in their chemical construction. Now we get our butter nice and hot. As you remember, we have to have the foam begin to go down. Then the potatoes go in. And these take about 3 or 4 minutes to cook on each side, and then you have to taste them, or taste a little corner up. And if the potatoes aren't quite done, cook them a little bit longer, or else you can finish them off in the oven. And you can make these either thick or thin, or whatever you like. There, I'm just going to let those cook for a little while, and then I'll show you what we can do with little pancakes. Seeing how our Gratin Dauphinois is doing. Now those are small potato pancakes, and I'm going to show how you can make them as for a main course. And we have here some diced ham, and so you can put that on. You could use diced chicken livers or whatever you wanted on these. And again, as with the biron, or the baked potato ones, you can mix anything else you like in with the initial mixture. Now, I've still got some onions left, but I think I'll use some poached eggs. I just looked at the Dauphinois. It's coming along, but it isn't done yet. Now, these eggs I poached this morning and then put in cold water. And I'm going to pretend that they're in hot water, because that's the way you heat them up, in hot salted water for a minute or two until they're just heated through. And then you dip them out with a spoon and then roll them around in a towel to get all the moisture off. It's awfully convenient. I've had poached eggs that I've made 3 or 4 days ago, which I've kept in the refrigerator, and just in water in an uncovered bowl, and they just tasted perfectly delicious. Yeah, after 3 days, which is surprising but convenient. And then we have some tomato sauce. And we just put the sauce. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to look at my potato pancake. You can tell when that's done when you begin to see some little holes coming up through. Now I'm going to flip this, by gum. There. You see, that was much easier because it had the crust on there which held together. Now, put on some tomato sauce. This was some canned tomato sauce which I simmered with a little bit of boiled ham that was diced and some onions and some herbs. I find that it's always much better if you put in your little own home seasoning too. And then we'll put a little bit of parsley on top. And there you are, a very nice course. I think I'll put a little more tomato sauce on because it's always so good. And then if you wanted, you could have some green vegetables around in between. I put some little parsley mounds there just to decorate it up. And there we are. Now that makes a very nice luncheon dish or a supper dish. So we have now here two main course potato dishes. We have our potato pancakes with our eggs and our ham, and we have our potato and sausage casserole. And with either of these, all you would need would be a green vegetable or a green salad, some French bread, and a nice chilled rosé wine. And then we have our other two. We have the Gratin Dauphinois, and we have our mashed baking potato pancake. And with those, you could serve those with steaks or chops or any kind of meat. Now, these are easy to make, as you have seen. And one thing you do want to remember is if you're going to do any scalloped potato dish, be sure that you get boiling potatoes. You don't want the baking potato, which becomes floury when it's cooked, because you have to have these potatoes keep their shape while they're cooking. Now we've had, out of 200 French recipes, we've done 4 very nice ones. We've done 2 potato casseroles in main dishes and 2 potato dishes that you can serve with meat. So you only have 196 recipes to go. Courage and bon appétit. This is Julia Child.
Julia Child is co-author of the book Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Furniture and accessories courtesy of Design Research Incorporated.
The French Chef is made possible by a grant from Safeway stores.